Evening, everybody. Welcome to Talkin' Pop Culture with Jake D and our ongoing coverage of CBS All Access's The Stand. Whew, boy, what to say about this week's episode. Boy, I want to start off with saying that this week's episode was one thing I'll give it was not as offensively awful as episodes 2, 3, and 4, which were some of the worst television I've ever subjected myself to. And so, to be fair, that's a pretty low bar to hurdle, but it definitely was better than that. There were, I suppose, at a high level, if this had been part of a good show, I think we would have walked away from this episode saying, yeah, it was okay. But because it's the tail end of one of the worst miniseries ever to air, I think most people are walking away with it saying, God, that sucked. So, all right, before we get into the big details on it, do a real quick say hello to everybody who is in the chat this evening. Got Stephanie Littlepage. Thank you for stopping by, Stephanie. Just another red shirt. You are the red shirt, and don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise, my friend. Tux the Newfie Poo. Good evening. Good evening. Glad to have you here, Tux. I appreciate it. And TV. All right. I think that largely covers the folks that have stopped in. A couple of new names there in the chat, and I do appreciate you coming by. Well, my goodness, what did we just see tonight? I'm going to give it my number rating first, and I'm just going to give it a solid even 5 out of 10. It was not the worst episode of this series by any stretch. And given the lows that this series has gone to, shockingly, it might even be the best episode of the series. Granted, that's not saying much, but maybe. Where did I feel like they did okay? And where did they, once again, as we continuously expect, just totally miss the boat in this episode? For starters, I thought that Larry's performance tonight was pretty decent. He was the only character, I think, that in any way, shape, or form in the entire episode tonight that maybe felt genuine, and everybody else was this weird, just completely not their thing that we've been used to for the entire miniseries. But Larry did give a solid performance tonight, and I'm going to give him that, absolutely. I do like the actor, and it's a damn shame that he's just had such shit to work with this entire series, because I do genuinely like the guy, and I do think he gave a totally decent performance in this episode. So that was a high point. So that was good. Of course, in contrast to him and right next to him was the Ray Brentner character, which of course is the gender swapped Ralph from the novel, whom I actually had to look up the character's name to figure out who the hell it was last week or the week before, because she had been kind of in and around, but you didn't have any story on her whatsoever, nor any idea why the hell this woman was important. And they, once again, didn't do a lot to emphasize any kind of importance or connection to this Ray character. There was a weird moment between Larry and Ray where they were reciting roughly the dialogue from the novel, and it was really weird because Ray is giving this monologue, or kind of like this opening up and reaching out to Larry that Ralph did in the book, and it just didn't hit for a couple of reasons. One, we don't know who the hell Ray is, because Ray's just kind of been there with no explanation throughout the series. And two, she was delivering the lines of the male character kind of in the same way that the male character did. And when Ralph delivers those lines in the novel, it's beyond just the fact that you know who this guy is and you've connected to him. The fact that it's a man saying this to a man in this kind of male bonding moment made it a really cool scene that sticks with you. But when you have this character of Ray, whom you've built no connection to whatsoever, it just felt really out of place. And it's not that she gave a poor performance. It's just that, again, they gave her nothing to work with, and the audience has not connected with this Ray character at all. And so you're just kind of like, the scene didn't work. And like many scenes in this entire miniseries, that one just, it didn't work and felt so damn out of place and just wrong and off. It was just bad. We have the captured crew from Boulder, and they're thrown in the prison, and they've got the LVMPD prison jumpers on, and they've had RF spray painted onto the back of them. And we go into the show trial. And yes, Zimbabwe, exactly. Ray had all the same problems as the rest of the cast. No development whatsoever. The show trial was really weird because you've got the rat woman sitting as the judge, which of course is a flip of Rat Man from the novel. But of course, we don't know who she is, but she had a hell of a lot to do tonight. Let me tell you. Holy cow, did the rat woman do everything? She was a judge, she was a creepy, sexy nurse, and she was a television producer. Rat woman can do everything, but we don't know who the fuck she is. It was just weird, right? Because she's everywhere in this episode doing everything. And they just sort of plugged her in as basic utility background Vegas character to just sort of do everything, probably because they didn't want a bunch of different new characters that we didn't know who the fuck they were stepping into these things. But of course, since you don't know who the fuck Ratwoman is, it doesn't help that she's the one doing absolutely everything. So you're sort of forced to believe, I think, that this woman was a nurse who enjoyed reading law and producing television in her spare time before Captain Trips. I don't know. I mean, it was bad. And her over the top of everything was a little bit fucking crazy. Glenn did a good job with his speech during the trial, where he talked directly to Lloyd and highlighted the cracks in Flags Vegas. And it was very reminiscent of the book scene. So again, good performance by a singular actor in the middle of a scene that made no sense whatsoever. You don't even really have a good feel for the why of what's going on. And you don't know that Glenn is this guy who gave that speech, because in the novel, once again, they developed Glenn with a huge amount of story to build to that moment in the trial where, and Lloyd guns him down. Now, it's been a good 10 or 15 years since I've read the book, so I may be misremembering the exact details of how that went down in the novel, but I think it was similar to what we saw in the mock trial, at least in the sense of Glenn giving that speech and dealing with Lloyd and Lloyd gutting him down. The specific details may have been a little different than that, but that interaction between Lloyd and Glenn was true to the book. And in the book, this is Glenn, right? You know that this is Glenn. This is who Glenn's been since we've met him. And he's only further enhanced that throughout the book. But of course, this is kind of the first major character moment for Glenn in this entire miniseries. So despite a well-delivered performance, once again, it rings very, very hollow because we don't really have a connection or even really know the character per se. But Lloyd flips out and guns him down, and we get our first glimpse of the cracks in Flag's armor and the fact that Vegas is unraveling a bit when Lloyd shoots Glenn. And that and the way that we see some cracks in Flag happening, those changes from the novel from tonight's episode, I felt were forgivable TV adaptation changes. So Lloyd shoots Glenn and Flag falls to the ground. That was a pretty good way to show some of the loss of power that Flag starts to experience because of the stand and these people coming to New Vegas to confront him. So that was a forgivable change in the from the book to the show. Nadine getting her true self shown to her by Larry, and then ultimately cracking the window and throwing herself to her death was, I mean, perhaps a forgivable TV adaptation change. And oddly enough, and this is kind of weird. So again, it's been a while since I read the book. So my memory of Nadine's death was that she had committed suicide. That was, of course, part of what destroyed Flag. The funny thing about that is, of course, I had that wrong in my memory of the book because in the novel, she goads Flag into killing her and throwing her out the window, and he lost control in that. So it's kind of interesting that the way that they adjusted that was the same way that my bad memory from time remembered the scene. It's almost like the screenwriter hadn't read the book for a long ass time either. It was just so strange that my bad memory of that particular scene is how they ended up playing it out in the show, even though that's not how it went down in the novel. And in some ways, I do wonder if that might be part of the problem with this show that we got. Because when some of my bad memories, just the general major plot beats, were off because of the passage of time, it's almost like maybe part of the problem with what we saw in this season could have been generated from a similar issue with the screenwriters who put this thing on screen for us to begin with. I don't know, it's kind of a random thought that was going around in my head as I was going through those scenes and thinking about it today between when I watched it this morning and the stream now. So it's just, it was a little odd. Ray and Larry, of course, are going to be killed. A little bit different than how they went in the novel. They handcuffed him to the pool. Lloyd lets go of the water and it starts spilling down. And then they have this really weird thing happening when Flag's ordering them to be executed. And some random woman's voice repeats Larry's "I will fear no evil" line. And this makes Flag go a little crazy and what the hell. And then this random old guy that they flashed on in the crowd a few times during the buildup, he also says, "I will fear no evil." And you get a throwdown brawl. And then, of course, Ezra Miller, perhaps the worst character in the entire show, because he just totally killed Trash Can Man. They call him the Trash Can Man, but that was not trashy. So Ezra Miller rolls directly into the casino with the nuclear bomb that Flag told him to get, which, of course, in the novel, he went and got it to try to make amends with Flag. And oddly enough, he's repeating some of the same mantra shit that he did while he was trying to make amends when he was coming back at Flag's order, which was absolutely insane. It made no goddamn sense. But okay, he rolls into the casino. And Lloyd, for some reason, when some people defy Flag, has this like totally out of the fucking blue redemption moment where he's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to kill him. Somebody give me the keys before they drown. What the hell? This makes Flag go insane. And then we do get this kind of a strange decision in a difference for the show in the denouement of the show versus the same scene in the book. So in the book, the clouds come down and it's like the literal hand of God grabs the H bomb and just blows it up and blows everybody to hell. So in the show, the clouds come down kind of in the shape of a hand and they envelop the casino. And then this light of electricity comes in through the hole in the ceiling that was caused by Nadine's suicide. And then you get this weird, crazy ass scene that Tux the Newfie Poo mentioned earlier, right? So lightning killed everyone, and then and pretty brutally, right? Like it's going through people. You're seeing blood and parts explode everywhere, and it takes down this big decorative piece that beheads Lloyd. So and pretty much everybody in Vegas is getting killed by the lightning, and the lightning goes after Flag, and in a blink and you miss it moment, Flag actually disappears. He just blinked out of there. And so apparently the lightning was really pissed and it decided to shoot the H-bomb instead. And it sets off the hydrogen bomb, thus blowing up Vegas, despite the people trying to run away, who of course don't make it out because this is an H-bomb, for Christ's sake, the big fire. And yeah, that's basically the episode. Zimbabwe is saying, he didn't understand why the orb killed all of those people before just detonating the bomb. Yeah, it was a big waste of time. And did Flag go back to 1885? Yeah. Yes, I love it. Great reference, Tux. I love it, man. But yeah, it was so, like, I liked that the way that they brought the clouds down. So it wasn't necessarily like this really weird looking like cloud hand coming down, but then having it stop at the ceiling of the casino and start blasting everybody with lightning was like, whoa, wait a minute. You started good. And you really use that special effects budget, to TV's point, right? But then you just start blasting everybody with bolts of lightning out of nowhere. And so that was kind of like, yet again, one of those what the fuck moments from this episode. Now, some of the changes from tonight's episode were perhaps acceptable TV adaptation type adjustments, but a hell of a lot of it was not, as we've become accustomed to with CBS's version of this. I don't even want to call it a version of The Stand, because it's got some surface resemblances to the novel, but the majority of this is just so different as to just be an absolutely god awful approach to adapting the book. The H-bomb goes off, and our final scene really is our final two scenes are Stu and Franny. So Stu sees the bomb go off, and a wolf comes. Kojak takes it out, saves Stu's life, just like in the book. Franny is with Joe. Oh, wait, no, I mean Leo. But of course, in this show, they never tell us the kid's name is actually Leo. They're still calling him Joe to this day, which, that was sort of an important thing in the book because it represented Joe breaking away from Nadine, which had a lot to do with why she went ahead and went to Flag. But, they couldn't be bothered with that bullshit. So, but hey, okay, Franny's talking to Joe, and they see like this aurora in the background, and Joe's kind of suddenly psychic again for no reason. and tells her that the bad man's gone. And then we do get to see Tom stepping out of the dust and destruction to find Stu. And there's the end of this episode. And man, boy, yeah, if Skarsgård wanted to create the next funniest meme, bravo. Yeah, we could do a lot with Skarsgård getting struck by lightning this week. Absolutely. But yeah, this one was not even close to as offensively bad as the first half of the show, but it still was not any good. It wasn't solid. And yeah, modernizing the source with nods to Idiocracy and True Blood. I could see that, H. Hauserman. Absolutely. But yeah, so what do we have left? We do have the series finale next week, and there's a couple of things left to play out. But in terms of the source material, it's only going to add up to about half of the episode runtime. Stu and Tom are going to head home. Franny's going to have the baby. Boulder's going to change in its construction with a new committee in charge, and Stu, Fran, and baby are going to head off. And then we've got this mysterious new ending that King apparently wrote for this particular miniseries, which I am curious to see. But if the rest of the miniseries is any indication, it's going to be pretty shitty. Whew. All right. Well, if you've made it this far, please do remember to like the stream. Share it with your friends on social media. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about this particular episode. And yeah, the Aurora over Boulder, it was a load of bullshit. I think the only thing that they can say is that they're trying to show some kind of mystical power, because they did a shit job of showing mystical power otherwise. But let me hear your comments below. What you thought about this episode, what your expectations are for next week's series finale, and we will see you on the next video, the next stream, hopefully howling about entertainment on Sunday evenings, or next week at this time for the finale of The Stand. Thank you, and good night.